In this video, we're going to show how consultants can maintain their reputation while still doing outreach to get 10 to 20 conversations a month with potential consulting clients. This framework will illustrate one, how the ops.ai platform can automate all the crazy stuff that goes on to get to the inbox of your ideal customer, from data to managing deliverability with multiple branded assets and using LinkedIn to do outreach and invites to people that look like your ideal customer, and then how you create messaging that delivers value, how you get people's attention and go from unknown to known and have more conversations that result potentially down the line with consulting clients. So I hope you enjoy this. Let us know what you found valuable out of this and what you would change, what you agree with and disagree with. And we look forward to getting you to try out the Ops platform. And if you want to try it out, just DM me or book some time at ops.ai or Michael at ops.ai, and I'm happy to give you a personal walkthrough of our generative conversational outreach platform. All right, thanks to everyone that joined and is watching this. This is Generative Conversational Outreach for Consultants. I'm Michael Devellano from Ops.ai. Mariana Fowles, our growth manager, who's in the UK, is joining us as well. So I'm going to just get right into it. Um, let's talk about how do you get 10 to 20 conversations a month with people that look like your ideal customer if you are a consultant. And let's just see here if we can position this better. That's weird. There we go. Always AV problems. All right. And who's this for? This is for consultants that are facing a changing marketplace. So consultants that are faced with the opportunities and realities of an AI-driven world, which has probably changed what challenges their potential customers face, thus their offerings and how they can advise them. Do consultants have enough clients? Like, what's the way to get more clients? Is it only through referrals? That's really challenging if you're just sitting waiting for referrals. We're going to show you a way I think that will still maintain your reputation while engaging more people every single day in the background, using two channels that for outreach. We know it's a tight market. So a lot of consultants have reported that they've seen cutbacks in budgets and opportunities for consulting. And we want to like start opening up conversations because it's a really tumultuous world and there's opportunity for different types of consultants in different areas. And I think it's just a matter of figuring out who your ideal client is, what your offering is, and how you can deliver value to them in advance and communicate that to get more attention. And we know that a lot of times stuff that was traditionally outsourced to consultants or that people go to consultants for have been moved to internal platforms or teams. So there's always that reality. So consultants have to, I think, deal with the reality that budgets have moved in-house. So the state of it is really this. One, consultants are faced with having to emphasize what their specialization is and what their expertise is, and that they can offer value in advance without giving away the farm. How do you give value to a potential customer so that they're intrigued or they know, hey, I have this problem, this is someone that can solve it. We know that there's a lot of tech-enabled consulting. So whether that's figuring out like what is AI and how does it impact my organization, or if something in a particular vertical or consulting area has changed because of AI, what is that thing that's common to a group of people and how you can help them navigate it. Outcome-based models. So we know that many clients prefer performance or value-based pricing or over hourly billing. So how do you build your model? That's, I think, what a lot of consultants are faced with. And sometimes that can be a value driver, which is in your messaging. Maybe at some point, maybe you're going out to people that are a client, and maybe the reason they're engaging with you is because you're disrupting a marketplace because of a new outcome-based model versus just paying you and getting advice. Clients as co-creators, is there a way to collaborate on outcomes and even content, workshops, interactive dashboards, tools by engaging the client and they're paying you to build a thing that they would want? And then digital first engagements, like does it have to be in person? How do you still have relationship driven um, engagements that are maybe remote or over the internet? Any other thoughts on this? Are we good?
I think you covered that quite well.
Okay. We're trying. All right. So this is me, not to harp on this, but founder and CTO of Ops.ai will explain what Ops is and how this can help consultants to engage in the background with more conversations with people that look like ideal partners. I've led the development of a lot of other people's tools and also consulting, particularly around Salesforce, CRM, marketing automation. Wrote a couple books, Automate and Grow, and then most recently Form Your Own Pack, which is inspired by the Japanese Keiretsu business model that a lot of people have forgotten about. And it proposes a different way to do business with, particularly with startups, but not limited to that, that is collaborative. All right. So what's the story? What is Ops and Ballet? What is generative conversational outreach? How does this apply to consultants in particular? I think it actually dovetails our approach to starting conversations with people and making friends with them, really dovetails really nicely for what consultants want to do to demonstrate value. Ideal customer profile, obviously, all outreach begins with data that looks like your ideal customer. So we want to explain how to use that and how to make friends or deliver value in advance with your ideal client. There's a little bit of a technical aspect that we're trying to hide, like behind the Wizard of Oz, behind a curtain. So we can explain what you have to do to actually get your message into the inbox of people that look like your customer, and then the role of LinkedIn outreach and automation. And then really just like how do you be different? How do you deliver value in advance and communicate that with copy?
Mhm.
Good overview.
Absolutely. In terms of the Wizard of Oz comment, I think, especially for my background in marketing, a marketing team is usually at least 2 to 3 people, and that's for bigger size companies. And the types of companies that we've been working with, recruiters, consultants, and founders, they don't necessarily have that team yet of a significant number of sales and marketing members of their team. So realistically, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, and people are busy, and it's a lot to take all at once. So a lot of people have dappled with data marketplaces and so forth, but there's so much that has to go into just making those searches, and how much time do we have? So
Well, and I think
yeah.
consultants in particular, right? Because consultants are like high level and they want to demonstrate value. And if they're messing
Mhm.
around with, outreaching campaigns, there's probably a wide gap there. And they're like, well, I don't sell, I advise. How do I
Yeah.
how do I not, change my perception in the minds of people? But that doesn't mean you can't be proactive. Like I think waiting for stuff is a challenging strategy. Waiting for relationship
Mhm.
referrals, waiting for your content to drop and hit. Some of these more passive models, how do you not go full pitch, but still use your capabilities to demonstrate value to maintain your reputation? And I think that's what our goal is to give a system that deals with the technical aspects so it's off your plate, but then
Yeah,
messaging that's
absolutely.
consistent with your value proposition.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the challenges, first of all, there is this perception, maybe even in consulting, that outreach is bad, but I think you need to make more and more friends that look like your customer. And that's really what our goal is as a platform is to evangelize. Okay, let's deal with the technical aspect of getting to the inbox of the person we want to talk to, but then what
Mhm.
that message is and how you deliver it is also really important. It's important. Part of this is data. Data as far as like who you're reaching is a real person at a real place that you think they are. And that really is important. But also, how do you then respond to people that maintains your reputation? And I think part of our goal is to not look like we're desperate. Well,
Mhm.
but we can either enhance someone's value proposition by replying. And to me, that's conversations. How do you prompt conversations with people where they want to talk to you? And that's really a big part of this.
Yeah, it's always about staying true to the reason why we're networking, and to actually be networking, right? So finding a healthy balance between selling and making those genuine connections, and making sure that we're not being spammy and alienating potential prospects.
Yep, agreed. All right. So for me, there is a lot of complexity and technical complexity people don't want to mess around with. Whether you're a consultant or a salesperson or a founder, there's all these pieces and complexities of just getting a message out to someone that you don't necessarily know yet, but it looks like your customer. And a lot of that complexity is technical to get to an email inbox, or how do you use LinkedIn that's not just like posting content and hoping someone responds to it. So what I wanted to do is build an AI driven platform that addressed automating the setup and all the technical aspects, but then with a philosophy of generating conversations. So I wanted to remove that complexity and reduce it to just requests. So just like a generative chat request to create campaigns and messaging that aligns with whatever your goal is. Who do you want to connect with and what do you want to talk to them about? So part of that is we start with really good data. We want to show you frameworks to create messaging that makes friends with people that look like your ideal customer. We trust people and we buy from people that are experts. And there's no more, no one that needs to demonstrate more expertise than consultant.
Mhm.
So how do we maintain that? It's getting the right message to the right person. So let's, hide the technical part, but make it happen. And then come up with a story or messaging that engages people and gives them intrigue and entices them. I
And
don't know
it's all about giving you the time back because you don't have to learn how to be a sales and marketing person. Your expertise is somewhere else. So
yeah,
how do we
exactly.
give you that time back to focus on what you need to be doing?
And that's what we want to be doing, right? We want to be talking to people about valuable things. Part of this is, LinkedIn has got kind of I think it's had a little bit of a renaissance in 2024. People have figured out that you can actually post really good content. So there's that aspect. But I don't know if that's extended to outreach. I feel like people that are doing outreach, it's either you should never do outreach, but that's not the way it should work. Like we have Sales Navigator, we have the best data source. And I think the problem is transactions and transactions of time. And when people use the word, for example, selling or networking, there's a spectrum, right? There's just connecting with people that look like your customer, but then not delivering any value. That's way out here to the right. And then there's
Mhm.
like straight up transactions, which to me are selling and then networking. And there's a huge gap in between. We're creating content that tells a story, tells our founder's story, delivers workflows and value in advance.
Yeah.
We need LinkedIn outreach and even email outreach that does the same thing. So don't just throw the baby out with the bathwater. Say, oh, I'm never going to tell my story or never pitch. That's way over here to the right. And there's no
Mhm.
point to that. And then also don't make it so you're chewing up people's time by just pitching them straight with no value in advance and networking for the sake of networking. And I think
Mhm.
what we're saying is we're right in the middle there. We're a nice sweet spot, and this approach will help you to accomplish that.
A targeted approach.
Correct. Yeah. All right, but there is this. This is
Ooh,
like this,
painful.
this is
Jesus.
which is like this is all the stuff you could use in different categories to accomplish different jobs to just talk to people. It's insane. So this to us, like we've illustrated before the SaaS monster, and I should have dug that image up, but it's like if you look at just salespeople, and this applies, I think, to recruiters and consultants and anyone that's just trying to talk to people more and more, there's this barrier. And the barrier is two things. It's tech debt. It's learning and being an expert in software or services or data platforms just to find people that look like your customer and then get in front of them. And this is before you ever get to the creative copy value in advance part. So
Mhm.
how do we get rid of this? And that's kind of our goal with ops is we want to say, look, we want outreach that is, yes, automated without being automatic, like without being robotic. We know that there's two channels that matter because our customers are where they're in they're in email all day. So how do we stand out in the email box? How do we get to the inbox? And then
Yeah, how do we actually reach their
we have
inbox?
first get there.
Touching.
And then same thing with LinkedIn. How do we get in their inbox so they actually want to talk to us? Because it's a great platform where there's high trust, right? There's lower trust on email, and you've got to establish that trust and value. LinkedIn, you start, I think, with high trust because I can see your picture, I can see your banner, I can see your description, and you use those things. So if you invite me to connect with you on LinkedIn, I want to have the table stakes. I want to have a really good profile and positioning. But then what do you say? And how are you engaging people and what types of conversations you're having? So we'll talk about that. All that is still outreach, but it's like the new outreach. right? It's not being a used car salesman in these environments, being a high value person that demonstrates expertise and tries to help people legitimately. All right, so we've had success with people just from technical and from messaging point of view. Some of those results, like we did this ourselves a year ago, and we're doing it again, which is to get feedback on our first product, our ops.ai, we booked 100 onboarding calls using LinkedIn and email outreach. And the product, what we got was feedback on what the roadmap should be and the approach. And that's really where this all came out of. So a year later, we're here and we're like, we're in a much better spot because of those conversations. We've had clients that have had, very difficult titles that they're able to get in front of and add value to. 60 to actually, it was like, I think it ended up being like 80 or 90 CHRO discussions that end up being in an advisory council, but also customers. We've driven clicks for e-commerce companies, although I don't know this is really our focus. It can be used for that, where we have outreach that results in clicks to a website and then engagement in that way. We've booked investor calls for syndicates, podcast guest bookings, in real person, like online and in real life events can be filled very easily, as we've seen. And then just demo calls, we've had success with that for SaaS platforms. And then even in the nonprofit sector, meetings with executive directors, which is a really tough title.
Hmm.
The future is, and I think this is what we're delivering on, is we still want to automate all the technical setup, all the sales operations stuff, where there's departments to do this, or there's really, salespeople that are just like spending all their time creating these workflow rules and automations and different, like on average, I think the rule is like 6 or 7 SaaS applications are being used by SDRs, BDRs, AEs, founders, and consultants that are doing their own outreach. It's
Hmm.
crazy. So what we've tried to do is just say, look, we want some level of AI personalization, we want good data, and we want to be able to bang out a campaign that gets results easily. Until the tools are magic, we'll smooth over any gaps with human intervention, and that's why we do white glove setup for clients. But the
Yeah,
tools
there's so
are
much
gonna,
testing and learning that goes involved, especially on the messaging side of outreach.
yeah.
And if you have like 7 or 8 tools, it's so hard to keep track and truly have a grasp of what's working, what's not, what accidentally turned off, what's been taken down. And you'll see this if you have people that are working with 7 or 8 tools at a time, the reporting is never going to be,
Well, that's always a challenge, yeah.
yeah.
So how do we do that? Well, until we get to that magical state, here's how. This is the technical setup of getting to the inbox, right? So basically, it's like have good data that matches your ideal client. We want conversational messaging. We'll give frameworks for that. And then we even have a tool coming out that uses those playbooks and frameworks to get you started. So you can build LinkedIn and email messaging that generates conversations. And then we have campaigns, which is we take data, we put it in segments and messaging that is the right message to the right person. We need assets. So we need domains and email addresses that look like our main domain, but we know that it's a bad thing to use your main domain. There are forces out there named Google, Yahoo, and Outlook that are they're throttling the ability to do this. And the reality is we need value, but we also need volume.
Mhm.
And the ops will automate all that stuff above the line. And then below is LinkedIn, which is you have your content strategy, you have your event strategy that shows up on LinkedIn, but there should be outreach to support that. And that outreach needs to also be conversational. And we'll show you what that looks like as well. And then really it's up to you to do this green box. Like once people raise their hand, say, I'd like to talk, majority of people in the data set here, let's call it 500 or 1,000 people a day or 10, 20,000 overall that you're targeting, we know 3 to 5% of them are actually at any point willing to talk to you for a reason that they need help or they need what you have. So you're just trying to get to this broad aspect to say who's in the follow-up funnel. And what we want, most people want 10 to 20 conversations a month. And that's our goal. So this structure is how you get there. This is ops. Really, to summarize it, instead of pushing buttons and being a SaaS expert, what we're saying is start by telling Valet, which is our co-pilot, create a campaign, targeting my ideal customer, and here's the parameters. And at some point, you also say, I want the outcome to be X, or here's here's messaging parameters. And the messaging parameters, we have data, obviously. We have curated data where you can search and find 170 million records, or from that volume, data that looks like your ideal customer. It doesn't have to necessarily be this. This is our curation. You can traditionally just download data and use it in campaigns, but we want to hide all that. And then messaging is how do you take the frameworks that we're going to show you and just, and actually I should have shown this, which is probably more useful. But if you look at sequencing, how do you say, who am I? What's my consulting or other company? What do I provide? And what's my outcome? What's the outcome that I'm promising? That's the proposal. What problems do the people that I want to talk to have? And my special solution to that. And who is that I'm trying to target? And based upon that, coming up with messaging on LinkedIn and email that starts conversations. And then that's essentially what we're delivering is a more automated way to get to that point. And I think a lot of companies struggle with messaging. This is such a huge unlock. Like you get past all the tech debt, you get past all the technical barriers to the inbox. Now what do I say? And I think
Yeah.
we're trying to say, let's get them 90% there.
And you don't want to get the messaging wrong either.
Yeah.
Because, like we were saying earlier, you don't want to alienate prospects and be spammy, or there's a right way to do things. And there's a lot of testing and learning and expertise that goes into it. So,
And I think consultants would be really good at this and value this because consultants are good
mhm,
at taking complex, abstract things and coming up with a game plan for people. And that's why they trust them, right?
absolutely. Yeah.
So I think if we start someone with copy that matches this playbook that we're going to explain and the copywriting frameworks, they're going to understand, well, that's not quite what I would want to say, but if I tweak it, and then you can have human review of what AI started from that framework and finish it off. And you'll have a lot of success. I think you'll have a lot of people that are adding you back on LinkedIn, engaging in conversations in your inbox, and then even replying to you in email. And whether that's directly or opting into things that you want to give them or engaging in events, which are all calls to action, or asking you for a video. Like we'll talk about calls to action a little bit, but I think I consultants should be the best at this.
Absolutely. Coaches and consultants who have written their own playbooks and programs, so to speak, and how they add value to their clients.
Absolutely. I think you can take those, plug it into this approach, and have the most success.
Hmm. And I think it could also just save a lot of time in your day to day in creating your messaging. Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the biggest things. Like once you get like, first of all, people struggle with the technical setup of this stuff. So this solves for that. Great. You're still stuck with people that don't get success because they don't know how to tell their story and they don't know how to deliver the value. So we kind of give a simple framework that will explain this built into the AI. But consultants, man, they should rock this. Like consultants
Mm-hmm.
have white papers, consultants have case studies, consultants are probably really good at webinars and events, and they can use this to fill those. Fill those.
Absolutely. I mean, let's be honest, a lot of us are already using ChatGPT on a regular basis to help us with our day-to-day tasks. Um, so this is just another level where it's really going to help consultants in this context where there's a whole bunch of tech and things going on behind the scenes to get things done. So,
I agree. All right, so we know it starts with data. Who are you targeting? Where are they based? What industry? What company size? What titles? Ops has that all under the hood, so you can tell through a generative request, create a list or create a campaign targeting my ideal customer that is in, I'll use an example, the technology industry located in the United States with the title founder and a company that has 1 to 100 million or 10 to 100 million in revenue. And it
mhm.
basically says, rather than you hunting, scraping, enriching data, it just says, look, this is how much data I have. Is this correct? Do you want it? You can take a sample of that data to verify and go, oh, I took 10 records and those look like people I want to talk to. And that's what it starts with. So that's part of the workflow that can now, instead of spending a lot of time, you can do it in about a minute. And then you get into just setting up a campaign with messaging. And then the question is, what are you engaging people with? What are you delivering in advance that gives them value? So some of the ideas that we've seen successful, we obviously want to be conversational in our messaging. We want to engage people and invite them. Online events, in-person events, podcasts all have very low risk and high take rate. So we observe that as calls to action. Sending someone a video, usually people are very open to that, as opposed to trying to book time with them. There's a line there where you start trying to book calls.
Mhm.
You really, really have to demonstrate value in advance. So you might want to take this in stages. Giving status to a person we've seen is very, very effective. So, for example, we have an advisory council for ourselves, which are VPs of sales, particularly in technology, not necessarily more B2B. And we legitimately want those people to take a look at what we're doing, give us feedback and advice, tell us what tools they're using and what the delta is. And
Mhm.
that's it. We're not asking them to give us money. We're just asking them to give us feedback. That can be in chat or in person. And we've seen that be very, very effective. So, what's an advisory council you can have on a thing that you deliver? If you're selling to CTOs, consulting of what to do with AI in your organization, or maybe it's founders, why wouldn't you have a CTO advisory council on AI? And that's what your outreach is about.
It's
That could
all
be,
about building a platform where people can know you, like you, and trust you, and showing the value that you can deliver. So whether it's an advisory program or if it's a podcast
yeah.
or webinars, just being visible and showing the value you can bring.
I think people need to get there around the mindset of this is just the first touch. This is how
Mhm.
it begins. And if you just want it to be transactional, say, oh, I'm networking, people are going to be turned off by that. If it's just like I have this thing to sell, people might be turned off by that unless there's a lot of value in the offer, which is important. But if you're a consultant, why wouldn't you fill dinners with this? Why wouldn't you fill roundtables with this? Private experiences, give them case studies or ask for feedback on case studies or, and again, the podcast is amazingly effective. And I think the advisory council is the great unlock there. If you're not running an advisory council of people that look like your customer, you're not getting any feedback and you're not in a situation where you can hear their problems.
That's a really good point. That's super, super important.
I think every consultant should have at least one advisory council they run. And what does that
Mhm.
look like? Could be quarterly, right? It's just like I invite you to this online event. Maybe it's in person once a year. I think you can do it geographically in different markets and it can be online. So I think you just need to have some imagination around this. But I think it's a super big unlock that we've discovered.
Mm,
And then if you have a new practice area, why wouldn't you ask the person that looks like your customer, are you doing anything in this area? What have other people approached you with? What are you seeing and what had value? It's not even about you, but can inform you of what they're looking at spending money on. It can inform you of what problems they're trying to solve and what they liked that other people did. And you can learn from it and adapt it. Or maybe you have a better approach and that gives you then permission to present that to them.
yeah.
And then, boosting someone's profile can also mean, and we've seen success with this, and we have where you actually maybe it's LinkedIn posts of people that other people should follow. We've been doing that. We have great creators that are in our space that we want to feature. So giving without that asking for collaborations. Can we do posts together? Can we do podcasts together? Can we have articles that we collaborate on? This can
Yeah.
be very effective.
Featuring people in your content.
Engage
That
them
can be
in being
really
a part of it.
helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. And then directories, like we've seen Demandbase had a really good directory where they had the top 50 women in sales. And what that got them from what we saw, number one, they got some SEO out of it, I think. And we've done
Hmm.
this with VCs actually, but let's use that as an example where Demandbase has this directory. They featured a profile with a picture that link goes to the LinkedIn and Twitter of these top 50 women in sales. And then those women, one of them, Bethany, is, someone that from SenSpark, I think was on that. The founder of Chili Piper was on that. And you saw they're like, hey, I'm honored to be a part of this. And those types of things can have value. You don't want it to be, you gotta think about it so that it is high value.
Hmm.
And you've got to, I think the intention is a big thing. Like, how do you deliver value to them? And we've seen that even for ourselves, where we created a directory of venture capitalists, and we've interviewed venture capitalists, and they want to include an interview for those profiles or for the newsletter. And we don't do it to make money. We don't do it for anything other than to give value to someone that we think is an important audience for us to be friends with.
This is a good time to mention that you should all check out Founders Pack.
There you go. Yeah, that's a good point.
Michael's awesome podcast on YouTube where he's interviewed some pretty awesome people.
Yeah, I've been really lucky to meet people that way. It's definitely super valuable. All right, so
Mhm.
then how do you say this in a way that people get what you're trying to accomplish? Um, any of your messaging, I think, when you're copywriting, there's some frameworks we'll present. Show that you looked at them, build some rapport. Don't be creepy. There's definitely a weird line where people are like, "Hey, I noticed we both follow this," or "Oh, I noticed you go to this school and you did this, and I really value." And you don't want, you want to be genuine.
Oh no, I get LinkedIn messages where it's basically like, "Hey, I was checking out your website and I don't like this page. Can I redo it
Yeah,
for you?"
it's like
Oh,
it's like the
screw off.
nagging, the negative. You can fix this. This is terrible. I have one that says, I would like a bounty for correcting your problems on your website.
Mm.
And I'm like, are they trying to extort me
Oh
for?
yeah, I want to marry you too. Let's get into business together.
Yeah, so you got to be really careful that you are actually not being a creep or a jerk.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah,
we got one of those the other day, but I thought it was super valuable, but it was also like there was a little snarkiness to it.
yeah.
It was like, well, you're going to impose on my inbox. I'm going to give you this feedback. And it was actually valuable feedback. It was just delivered weird.
Mm.
So the delivery does matter. You want some sort of call to action at the end of your messaging. Some you want to sometimes in either first or second messaging, it can be effective to reference success or case studies. So that can be effective. And then calls to action, there's a really good study by Gong that explains the risk in saying yes to your call to action or the nature of your call to action, if I can put it that way. And this is really question based versus setting a meeting. So, for example, if we will sometimes suggest, hey, can I send you a video to explain more? It's 2 minutes or not 2 minutes. Like you're framing like I can give you this thing.
Mhm.
If I've piqued your interest and you have this problem that I can solve, the call to action can be, hey, let me know a good day or time to connect, and I'm happy to do that. That has more risk than, can I just send you a video explaining this thing? So you got to think of the call to action in terms of the risk to a person for money and time.
Hmm.
And there's an
There's a
emotion.
right time and place for everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So the call to action, for example, if I say to you, Marion, can we meet tomorrow at 1 o'clock? And I don't know you,
Mm. It's a bit much.
a bit much, right?
Bit
You're like,
much.
whoa, whoa, buddy. It's like, if I say to you, is this worth talking about? You're going to say yes or no.
Yeah, that's a good way to not waste any time and find out if I am actually a potential prospect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just, worth a conversation. If I say, and then there's some other spectrum, but that may not be get the results either, right? Because you're not being direct enough. The
Hmm.
other one, and the Gong study kind of illustrates this, where it's like, if this is interesting, um, let me know a good time and day to meet, or I can send you my calendar link.
Hmm.
It's not that I'm giving you my calendar, I'm asking for permission to send it. There's a way to frame that. I think you just want to be a good person. That's the way to do it. It's like, look, I'd like to talk to you. I don't know if you want to talk to me. And then the video thing actually can get a high response rate, but not a high conversion rate, which is interesting. People will watch a video, but they won't necessarily re-engage with you.
Mm.
The risk is sometimes it's in the video or they're just doing it to be nice, to get the pressure release of, yeah, yeah, send me your
Okay.
video, right? And sometimes even case studies, just because they lead to an email opt-in,
Hmm.
can be seen as very high risk. I don't want to give you my email, but I want your case study. So
Right.
if you can do it without like opt-in, the risk for you is you don't know who's grabbing it. The risk for them is they don't want to give the email to you. That's the transaction, right? So the you got to think through it a little bit, but there's a way to do it. Shorter emails, reading long emails can be really like is a big risk for people. It sucks up their time. It's exhausting. Shorter right now feels better and getting to the point, and we'll give you kind of a framework to do that. And then subject lines that are different, a little bit of personalization. Got to be careful with the personalization, not being too creepy, right?
Hmm.
And you got to test this. You need a bunch of hypotheses, do ABC testing across one, two, or three messages. And also, too many messages is really exhausting right now. I think one or two is good. Nagging messages is really annoying. Using guilt is really annoying to people, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know why you haven't responded, or I suppose it's not important to you. You just sound like a needy girlfriend.
Mm.
So we want to avoid that. This is a good framework that we have had success with, which is Pastor. This is like a copywriting framework that can be used in different settings, but definitely in your messaging. It's like, tell a story. How do you tell a story? The hero's journey is another example of this, right? Where there's a problem and there's a crisis, and then there's like a mentor appears, and then there's a resolution. It's kind of similar, which is this person with a problem. If the problem never changes, how do you amplify that? And then the story and solution to that problem and someone that has it that's similar to the person you're reaching out to. And then that's transformation. How the world looked better with the solution that you provided them or they found. And then the offer,
What
which is
can life look like if suddenly these problems disappeared?
right, the relief aspect. And so that the reader of your email or your LinkedIn message or your posts sees, oh, there's light at the end of the tunnel, but how do I get the
Hmm.
thing? So you do have to have some sort of an offer that
Hmm.
addresses the gong issue.
Solution, because consultants are all about providing solutions to problems.
Exactly. So this is
Yeah,
like a beautiful framework for consultants, right? But it's
absolutely.
like, okay, well, the offer then is, do we talk? Do I send you a video? Do you want to get this case study? And then asking them to do the thing. So this is kind of a really good framework, I think, for email. What's your story is always important. I think this is more content based, and or maybe it's like re-engagement. Like maybe you come out initially strong with, if I can solve this problem, would you be interested? Let me know and I can take the next step. And if people don't engage with that, you can over time go back and tell your story. Well, this is a problem I had in my life. It led me to create this magical solution as a consultant. And then this is what I'm motivated by. This is the people that I want to help and I really enjoy. And I loved the transformation they had because of this. And that's the why, right? Kind of like
Hmm.
Simon Sinek. It's the story of why that motivates people.
Hmm.
And calls to action, I think we talked about this. This is, this basis of over 300,000 emails that were sent out. Gong did this story or this research study, and it basically said specific, open-ended, or interest-based. Are you interested in connecting? Or what's a good time to connect? Or tomorrow at 2. There's more risk at specific and open-ended
Hmm.
than interest-based, but maybe there's a challenge with conversion at interest-based. So you got to kind of test it. But we're finding success with both open and interest-based for sure. I remember like my wife when she was like in a big corporate day-to-day role, she would get people booking stuff on her calendar.
Mm.
She's like, "What the hell is this?" And they would just literally book on her calendar. She's
Where did
like,
they get her links though?
"I don't know. It was so weird." But she would like canceling people who put meetings. They would send her a meeting request and include her on it.
Mm.
So it's like they have your email. That's cheeky, right? That's bold. And
Yeah,
you just
that is quite
blew
bold.
any opportunity to talk to me.
Yeah.
So don't be that guy. Don't be that girl.
No.
And then just asking if someone's interested, right? Offer and response. Sell the conversation rather than directly soliciting a meeting. It's like, hey, is this worth talking? This is a little bit more on that. I won't go to it, but I think we kind of emphasize this point that you got to really sell the idea and the dream of just talking and that you offer value to them and that you're going to do
Hmm.
that without ask. This is a really simple framework for messaging. If you have an email and you send it to someone that's new, say, hey, I've helped someone do this. If I can help you fix X, would you be interested? At the basis of it, that is the simplest way to frame your emails and your LinkedIn messages. And I think
Yeah,
it's like that this is really the crux of how you create really good messaging.
I think it's really tactful too, because where earlier we were talking about how people might scrape your email and put you into a bucket where they think, oh, I can just write you a generic personalized template email where it says that a page on your website needs work. Can I fix your website for you? No, this is really tactful in that it's saying, if I can help you, because we're not trying to criticize your job and we know you're the person in control here.
Point.
Yeah, there has to be a human element to every approach, right?
Correct. Yeah. And I think this if you the psychology of this is that there is value there. And maybe you don't value the thing and you're going to tell them, I don't value that. I don't care.
Let's collaborate though. Let's work together. It's a partnership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little toe dip, right? It's like it's non-threatening.
Hmm.
You might say no to this. And majority of people probably say no to it. They might say not right now. But because you weren't like just hammering them, I know you have this problem and I know you need a solution to it, and I'm the person.
Hmm.
I think that's the contrast in the message.
Yeah. Hmm.
Offering just even not a full case study, but just saying, hey, we helped so and so do accomplish X. Do you want to do that as well? Can be very effective. And we're seeing that in our own messaging. It's like we got so many appointments with this title for so and so. Is that a valuable thing for you too?
I think it's important to note that we want to have a flywheel approach. So we're not just doing stuff on email. Ops helps with email, it helps with LinkedIn, it helps with LinkedIn messages, direct messages, as well as the content strategy so that you're top of mind with your prospects and people know you, like you, and trust you. And so, yes, sometimes people are going to say, no, I'm not interested right now, where you engaged with them on email. Hopefully that message was not alienating. Hopefully it was tactful and you got it right. And then maybe in a couple of weeks they'll see your webinar through your LinkedIn and go, oh, actually, I really liked that. And they might see a space for actually working with you in a month from then. And it's just flywheel. So it might be a no, not right now, but you want to keep top of mind and never alienate these prospects.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think having non-threatening messaging that does communicate you can deliver value, maybe it's not for them or is for them.
Mm-hmm.
Let them self-select. And this is that whole, I put a post out today, obviously, on this on like people call it inbound led outbound or all bound. In the end, it's that at least I've made you aware with a first touch that was non-threatening and I didn't hopefully look terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you checked me out on LinkedIn, whether that's because of an email or because of a LinkedIn message. And then re-engaging people through content is really very important as we're seeing.
Yeah, being visible, multi-touch on different platforms is super important too, because that
Agree.
really adds to the credibility and being top of mind.
And we're obviously focused on the outreach part with ops and finding people, but to your point, like I think that's just first touch stuff.
Hmm.
All right, so this is how we do this from a technical point of view that you don't necessarily want to set up and that we can just set up for you, by the way. So how do you actually get to the inbox? What we want to do is we need assets. So this is kind of going back to the technical. You've got good messaging. How do you get that message to the right person at the right time? We know it starts with data that's really accurate on this is a person at this company, this is their actual email, this is their LinkedIn. Our campaigns, though, also on email, what we have a best practice of is to comply with the Google bulk sender reality, which is they came out with these rules And there's
Mhm.
been a real war for the inbox. We know if you have one domain that's your main company domain, it has a reputation on the internet. That reputation is affected by content you produce and the health of your domain, but it also affects email. So if I'm sending a lot of email, like thousands and thousands and thousands of emails from that one domain and that one email address, and if there's any negative response, i.e., you're marked as spam in an inbox or a
Mhm.
firewall blocks you, it affects your overall domain reputation. Likewise, that reputation determines sometimes if you get to the inbox. But the reality is, if you have a bunch of branded domains that are look-alike domains, they're
Mhm.
hosted separately, and you're not sending massive volume from them every day. You're sending 10, 20, 30 little messages and no more. That can work very well to get in batches messages out. But then you need volume. You still need 500 to 1,000 messages probably per day to get the type of response. You probably need on email for first touch 400 to 600 emails to get one good response
Mhm.
and
It's a
get them
numbers game,
into
isn't
the,
it?
there
Whether
is
we like it or not, it's a numbers game.
like you like it or not, right? We know
Mm.
LinkedIn's different. LinkedIn caps you at probably 400 to 800 invites, and then people will get your message if they add you back. And we never do more than two messages on that, which is an invite and a welcome. And if that
Mhm.
doesn't start a conversation, we think of how to re-engage people through value in another way. Email is very similar. It's just the numbers have to be higher. It's just the reality of it. It's a lower trust environment. People don't see your LinkedIn profile. They don't see your profile picture. They don't see where you work. They're just getting a message in their inbox
And we all know emails get lost,
for sure. So
or
to
they can take
combat
weeks
that,
to actually be read.
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
That being said, we'll share we're making noise through email, and we're definitely getting
absolutely.
some
We've met
results
some really
through
good people
email.
through email,
So
right? And new clients.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. And th this is kind of structurally how we do it. We usually set up for a client like 10 branded domains. We set up 30 email addresses, like, 1 to 3 personas. We put this into warm up that measures the reputation and make
Hmm.
sure is this being perceived on the internet as popular or positive, and will it most likely get your message to an inbox. We know there's some other complexities, but we take that away by just setting this up for you. And then we
But
just
it's
we
it's so sorry, I should mention it's so important to have these other domains, these branded domains, because a lot of people lose their entire website through
that's
thinking,
true
oh,
too,
I'll
right?
just try prospecting through email, and it just gets their whole domain shut down.
And I think there's a perception that this is not like legal or ethical, and I think it's the opposite of that.
Hmm.
Business to business emails, messages that go to other business domain email addresses, based email addresses, not someone's personal Gmail or not someone's personal Yahoo or someone's personal Outlook.com. Those
Hmm.
are non-starters. We're saying your business email address to someone else's. You do need these assets, so you have multiple branded domains and sending to another business email address that's verified. So that's an important aspect of it. And then the way you get volume is you have a campaign with good data. So it's accurate data. It's not going to bounce because of the data. And then low volume spread out across multiple email addresses. That's just the best practice. And then make sure your gut messaging is really good.
Yeah.
So people aren't unhappy that they got your message.
Hmm.
And you know what's crazy though is I think your reputation on social affects this. Your reputation is taken into consideration of your domain health by firewalls. So if you're active, you're a real name, and you have a real profile on LinkedIn, you're posting content, believe it or not, because if you search for someone on LinkedIn through Google, it shows up.
Yeah.
Firewalls
Yeah.
do the same
People are looking in the background for
thing.
social proof, so to speak, to see if you have that credibility and you're someone they can trust. And it's the same thing on the tech side too.
Yeah, the tech part being firewalls. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah,
Deliverability
it is
is
tricky.
impacted by what you're putting out there.
I've worked in, big tech companies where the marketing team thought, oh, we'll just make alias LinkedIn profiles and have
Oh,
those
yeah.
alias LinkedIn profiles do outreach for us.
It's tempting,
No.
right? Because the volume is low. You're like,
Mhm.
yeah. And then the formula on LinkedIn is very simple. Like obviously you want consistent content that matches your story and your brand. And some of that's more personal, founder story, problems you solve, and then giving, giving, giving.
Hmm.
Outreach component then is supported, and the outreach campaigns are very simple. Consistent messaging with copywriting framework we've provided. We never send more than an invite. So let's say I send 800 invites automatically to a target segment. If they add me back, they automatically get a welcome message that has my copywriting framework built in. But it's all to start conversations about something I can help them with or give value to them.
Yeah.
And then so the math there just is really simple is like if I send 800 invites, my goal is 20% of them adding me back. That's 160 people. And then 10% of those, my goal is if I'm saying the right thing to the right person, they talk to me. So I'm getting 10 to 15 conversations a month from LinkedIn. And then I want the same number on email. So I'm getting 10, 20, upwards of 30 conversations a month between the two channels that are valuable for both sides. All right, that's a lot. But that's it in a nutshell, right? Obviously, you want to be different and kind of put your own voice out there. You can, and we talked about a whole bunch of calls to action that I think are really valuable, particularly for consultants. And I guess the question is, if you could have all this up and running for you in the background, because it is a lot, I'm sure, if it's the first time someone looks at it, goes, oh my God, I got to set up branded domains. I've got to have an email software. I've got to have a software that downloads data. I've got to have LinkedIn
The
automation
good
software,
news is, no,
Sales
you don't.
Navigator. I have to have CRM. You go, okay, yes, but we can simplify it. We simplify it through ops being one generative platform, and then we add a human element, which is white glove setup. If you could have all this set up and working for you inside of 4 weeks, would you be interested in that? And if you are, this is how we do it. We just take the cost of, rather than being an agency where they're going to charge someone per lead $300 per meeting, or they're going to charge them two, four, six, eight, 10 grand a month. And we know this is the value. And you can see this. We show people a directory that shows like, here's what I charge a month. And that's the cost if you go to a full agency. If you buy all the tools, it adds up to probably three, four, five, seven, $800 a month. What we've said is, look, we'll just do it for you in the middle. We will give you the platform, but we'll set it up for you because we know how to do it. We understand. We'll set up your branded assets. We'll set up your data sets, help you with copywriting initially, set up your campaigns for email, set up your campaigns on LinkedIn. We'll just do it for you. So if that's interesting to you, then our call to action would be, set up a time for a 15-minute onboarding. All we would just do there is explain this is what our approach would be to your messaging for your consultancy and how I would do it. And it's less than an agency by a significant amount, probably 5 to 10% of the cost of an agency. But
Hmm.
then you get the platform. You can decide to do it yourself, or we know that the platform's so efficient that it's less heavy once we've got it all set up. So this is kind of our offer to the world, which is white glove setup of the tech. Takes a lot of the complexity away.
Gives you a lot of time back.
Gives you all the time back, right? You can
Yeah.
focus on conversations that you want to have.
Hmm.
It works in conjunction with Sales Navigator, by the way. This is the only thing we don't directly provide, but the benefit of Sales Navigator, you pay, usually get a 30-day free trial of this, but what it unlocks on LinkedIn is the ability to find out who is where that fits your ideal client. That's so the search, right? And we can
Hmm.
take that and we can match it with our data to have really complete picture of those people. And we use that in the campaigns that we set up. The other thing it does is it gives you the maximum number of invites a month, which is like probably we're seeing 700 to 800 for a given account that's in good standing.
Okay.
And that's where you get kind of the numbers. If it's 400 a month, that's the low end, but we've seen that number kind of creep up a little bit. There's a social selling score that's like a black box, kind of secret.
Hmm.
But the software figures that out. Can I send 400 or 800? And it's somewhere land is between. And that's it. That is, in summary, how we help people like get them onboarded on ops, get their messaging straight. If you want to do it yourself, you can do it. You can sign up for a tool like ops where you have LinkedIn and email data and campaigns. and your own create your own copy and sequences. If you want us to do it, it's pretty much the same cost, to be honest with you, aside from a
Mhm.
one-time $500 setup. And to people that are charging 500, 1,000, tens, hundreds of thousands for engagements, it's very low risk. We've taken a lot of that risk out. We've taken the risk of ourselves time out by building a good platform. And we're the experts in that. We don't expect people to be an expert in it. We want to just get you comfortable with it and set up. And worst case, we're the intermediary to the robot.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to do that, there we can put a call to action in here. We can You can download our guide on generative conversational outreach. We'll put this deck in an email to everybody that opted in to this event, and we'll
Mhm.
make it so you can just download it as well. And you can use it to create your own playbook. If you want to try ops out on your own, you can book a no obligation 15-minute onboarding. We'll get you set up on it. And also, we want feedback. We want input on, have we built something that's valuable? Is the framework that we're providing and the methodology valuable? And if not, what would we do to change it?
We are very passionate about what we're doing here, and we're bootstrapping.
Yeah, we're trying to be personable. We're the modern day equivalent. Bootstrappers are like the mom and pop of the SaaS and AI world, right? So we're
Yeah, and
not
it's
like
really badass to be doing it in this day and age.
that's what I put in. I mean, I don't know. We see VC-backed startups. I think the challenge with those is we've gotten feedback, which is interesting the last week, which kind of shocked me, which is, oh, you're very comparable to X and Y, which are companies, like I won't mention the names that have
Mhm.
raised. I know they're like, yeah, your product's just like this, but you're a little more like homey. And that was in a good or a bad context. And I was like, well, we built this ourselves. We've built the methodology ourselves. Here's our approach. And I'm actually flattered that you would compare us to products that were built by teams that have raised 20 and $50 million respectively.
Yeah. I don't think we're trying to be corporate though. We're just being ourselves, right?
No. And that's why I think we can deliver so much
Awesome.
value too. Like yes, it's a scalable tool and platform and approach, but it's also personable. That's why I say we're kind of like the mom and pop of AI SaaS world right now as a bootstrapping.
Yeah.
So yeah, and feedback is valuable like that. We don't take it personally. We actually learn from it.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from everyone who's watched this and hear what you think.
Yeah, was this valuable? Are the frameworks useful? Can you see how you would take your ideal client, your problems you solve, your offer, and plug it into it? And what else can we help you with? Can we help you do that? I think we have a
What else
pretty,
do you need help with?
yeah,
Yeah.
what else can we do? What else can we deliver on?
How are you already using AI in your day-to-day processes for outreach?
Yeah, I had a call with someone the other day and they were like, yeah, we use ChatGPT for this. We use this tool for that. We have another tool. And they're all very disconnected.
Hmm.
And I think they decided actually, they came and today actually and said, let's go ahead, let's do it, right? Send me an invoice, let's do a kickoff call. And that's what the world looks like now to them is like, send them an invoice. It's not a huge risk for them based upon the amount that they're getting value for. And the next step was really simple. It was, here's a kickoff call. We're going to figure out the initial messaging. We'll pull out data for you. We'll do all the technical stuff. And then let's review before we launch. And then are you getting the conversations you want? So we kind of massage the technology, right? It's not just like throwing an AI tool at someone.
Hmm.
And eventually, maybe we'll teach them to use it themselves, like just through chat or pushing a few buttons where they can spin up their own campaigns in minutes. And if not, it's not a big deal because we know how to do that.
Yeah,
I think that's the new SaaS, right? Like SaaS is going away. It's going to go
absolutely.
to like this hybrid of like our own advice and our own expertise coupled with AI tools.
Hmm.
Yeah,
You
so we
said it
want to know,
well.
is that
Yeah.
valuable to consultants? If you're watching this, we want that feedback. And if you want help, we're happy to help and talk to people.
Yeah, we truly want to work alongside with you because if you win, we win. Yeah.
If you win, we win. That should be our motto, actually. I think, yeah. Well, Marianne, thank you so much for helping with this. And I really
Thanks,
appreciate your insight
Michael.
and support. Glad Peyton was able to join us. And anyone that's watching this, we look forward to talking to you and hopefully we can bring some more value in the future.
Thank you.